welcome to Ignite Your Power, the Kathy Mou Podcast. And I am so happy and honored today that I have Jeremy with me, and he is my guest speaker, where we'll be talking about him, about his podcast, the It Factor, and so much more. So, hi, Jeremy, introduce yourself.
Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Jeremy Robinson. I am from Fort Riley, Georgia. I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia, where I am working at tech field, but I'm also a podcast host of the It Factor podcast, and I'm just happy to be here today.
Yes, we're so happy to have you. And I'm so excited because you are the first male guest that I have. And it's nice to have a viewpoint from, different perspectives. And that's all I'm here to do is to provide different perspectives as much as possible so people can figure out like what works for them and and having people share their story. I just love doing that because that's where I learn the most when I see people actually putting it into practice in their daily lives, and I'm like, okay, it's doable. If they did it, then I can do it too.
Right.
So, yeah, thank you for having the time to come on. All right, so let's just dive in to the questions. So, have you had to overcome anything in your life that you had to empower yourself to become the person that you are today?
Yeah, so it's a couple things. When I saw the question, it took me back down memory lane, and also some close to now and some way back in the past. But I'll start off with the first one was back in I'm from a small town in Fort Riley, Georgia. Very small population, and the biggest way out you think growing up is playing sports. I was fortunate to play the sport of football from the age of I think like 8 all the way up to what 17, 18. And in that time, you go through the times of like, okay, I can play football. Good. I'm going to go to college. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. And you get to high school, and I was a fairly good player. Um, I would say I started getting injuries and different things of that nature. And I started having those conversations like, what am I going to do? And it came down to me finding out that I had a heart murmur. At the time, I was scared of that because I didn't know what that was. And being in a small town, don't have the doctors like cities do. So you kind of like, hey, what am I gonna do? So I passed the test and things like that. But playing football was never the same for me. Like I still played, still started those different things. But near the end of the season, I made a decision. I would say the adult decision to say, you know what, I'm gonna pass on football because I need to just focus on school. And it was one of the hardest things I think I had to do because I loved football. And don't get me wrong, like at a young time, you like, oh, I'm going to the NFL. But once the time you hit a certain age in high school, you like, that's not gonna happen. But I can go to college for this, and at that time, I knew I could. So I was very nervous about that. It was hard telling my family because having people that played in the league, but also that's the way some of my people in my family got to college, especially males. So doing that, I would say that it was a scary time, but it also showed me that I can do other things. And to say the funny thing is, I still went to college, still finished college, got an academic scholarship, things of that nature. So I put more time into school, and I still got the chance to years later to live out those dreams of now me and my wife visit NFL stadiums, have a cousin that played in the league, and I also interview people that play in the NFL. So in doing that now, that's my way of seeing that door. But that was one of the scariest and fearful things that I had to deal with as a teenager. Very
Yeah,
fear.
that's such a beautiful story. And thank you for sharing that because, you only know what you know, right? So as a kid, you're like, okay, all my family members do this. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I can't do this. So you just start breaking down, getting nervous. At that time though, when you did find out you had the injury, like, what was your mind at? Like, where was it? Like, were you full of anxiety? Were you fearful?
I was a little bit of both. Like I was fearful, and I
Mhm.
was very anxious because you find out, like I feel like I found out in the springtime going to go get a regular physical. Mind you, I had got a physical since I was a little boy. So I'm like, why do you never find this out? Why today of all days? And the next week we was gonna start spring training. As a lot of people may not know, if you're not an athlete, those are the times where you getting everything in, you getting plays in. So different things I was missing because I found out about this heart murmur. So I couldn't lift weights. I couldn't do the normal thing that athletes could do. I
Mhm.
had to go to doctor every 2 weeks. And that was scary because you're like, okay, and this ain't just a physical. I got to go talk about what's going on, what I'm feeling. And I'm like, I'm not feeling anything. Like, and I had my mom telling me like, hey, tell them the truth. Like, if you're feeling something or something doesn't feel the same, please tell them because it can save your life. So you have to deal with those things. You sitting there like, so that's the first time I think that I started taking health very serious, and I started looking at like, is it really that serious for me to play football? Like, do I really got to do this? And I think that it was the first time I would say that, like I said earlier, I made an adult decision to say, you know what, not only walk away from the sport, but there's other ways I can contribute to this sport, but also taking care of your health is way more important than anything, And once I passed the stress test and the different things I had to go through, but I would say it was so mind boggling and I was so fearful of what could happen that I just was never the same. I just never felt the same. And I say what got me over that was like a year after taking off, and the friends asked, like, hey man, why can't you play hockey? And it's so hard to explain to teenagers
Yeah.
and young adults, like, hey, yeah, I can't do this good thing that you're good at. You're like, man, coach is telling you can go to college for this. You got some offers. And it's like, you know what? I literally would say that helped me open up my door for me being able to have a strong faith in God because I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of thinking outside the box of like, what can I do, God? Like, why is this happening to me? And like, what do I need to do? And I would say those doors just kept opening. Even though I closed that door to football, other doors started opening. I would say that even though I was fearful and different things like that, I could say that's what I leaned on. And especially having the family that I had. After a while, first off telling them, they was like, oh no, you're going to talk to the coach tomorrow. Like, but after a while, I had a mom that always was like, if this is your decision, then you still got to get in this academic. So I was already good in school, but you got to get into this so that you can go to school because now your body is not the only thing that's going to get you into school now. So those type of things were the different things I was fearful of versus I wasn't even scared of the heart murmur thing. I was more scared of like what's going to happen. So definitely.
Wow, that's amazing. So your mom did kind of push you in the right direction and you did really empower yourself, right? So you knew you were great at academics, but then you really fully focus on academics instead of like playing, football and then academics. So how did that happen though? Like, how did you just focus on academics and like kind of figure out how did that work in that sense? Because you said you did get scholarships, etc., like, in a different way. And isn't that beautiful though? When
Yeah.
you do rely on God and you do like, really tap into your spiritual side, like God works in its own beautiful, magical way.
Indeed, indeed. So I would say that literally what happened was I was always involved with my counselor. Like I always stayed in touch with my counselor, and we became friends while I was playing sports. So once I made that transition, we talked about the different universities that I wanted to go to. Some that I had, the one that I had offer from for football, I was like, okay, that's out the door. I'm not even gonna try to chase that anymore. But what can we do? And I would say that I always grew up. I couldn't play football if I didn't have good grades. So the grades was already there. That was never an issue. I think the biggest thing was to find out how to be more involved. I can stay after school now because I'm not trying to go to practice or trying to go work out extra, different things like that. And I would say in the midst of all those things happening, I just started applying to colleges that I thought that would be good for me. I found the love of computer science, and I didn't know what the field was at the time. I was like, but if I could work with computers, I thought it was gonna be building computers. I was like, I'm gonna do it, and I think finding that really helped me and helped me make that transition to, you know what, I'm not an athlete no more, but this is what I can do, and I feel like it came at the right time, especially that 11th grade going into my 12th grade year.
Wow, that's awesome. That's amazing. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So you did have to overcome depression and anxiety, right?
Yeah, and then I would say even from that, got stories for days. But one thing I will say that, long story short, after that, I didn't get to walk with my high school class because they had a graduation test back then. I missed it by 1 point. Mind you, throughout high school, I took it like a good number of times. And at the last time, it was like, oh, you're not going to be a graduate or walk with your class. So that was another form of depression. But going through what I went through that year before, I still focus on the things. I would be telling the story if I said that I didn't have any fear of what's going to happen with college or what's this going to happen. I would say, again, God works in mysterious ways. And having the family that I have, had the friends that were going through the same things went through, I would say it was a struggle for me to not be able to walk with my high school class, and that was hurtful. But my sister literally told me like, "Hey, look, something big is gonna happen," and to see that once I got done, I think I had not graduated with my class, but we still had a graduation party, things of that nature. I went to Clark Atlanta University, enrolled in the fall, went just like a regular student, and I got my high school diploma in that September because we had to file an appeal, different things that fell into place there. But with all that pressure, I say that all the good that came out of it was something crazy. Instead of not graduating with this small town, I got to graduate at a big university and they graduated twice now, got a whole master's degree. So it's different things that I think that anytime you go through something and you feel depressed or you feeling down, I feel that nothing but good is gonna come. You just gotta work through it, and it's always gonna be something bad. Like something bad is gonna happen. It's a part of life, but I feel like you shouldn't be depressed in it and not living your moments of depression, and I also feel like you should just persevere, no
Mhm.
matter what. So I'm glad I'm able to tell that story because a lot of people we go through things and no one ever tells you, hey, look, I have been through this. So
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. And the funny thing is, same thing for me, right? I went through depression and fertility. That was the worst days of my life. But then at the end of the tunnel, there's always this beautiful, beautiful thing that you can't even imagine. And, like I went through hell, obviously, but I got my daughter naturally. And just your story and your example of like you just having faith and listening to your sister that something beautiful at the end is going to happen, and which it did, and we all have those tough times, but the tough times always brings you to the light, to the beauty, to like your growth, and so it has to happen. And so for you it happened in that way. So it's amazing.
it
And
did, man.
yeah, do you feel like that part, like, led you into your life purpose too? Like, you're, having to overcome that because you said, now you're not playing in, like, football, but then you do, involve yourself in the NFL and you do have, family members that are. So do you feel like that, helped you figure out, your life purpose?
Definitely. I would say, especially in podcasting, I wrote about it in my book because I love being an author because you get to reflect on the different things
Mm.
that you have wrote about or like the different things you've been through.
Mm.
And I got to a chapter and I literally was crying because I was just like, man, I really like crying from joy, like tears of joy. Like, wow, I really get to do something I never thought you would do. The
Yeah.
only way I thought you could do this is that you had to get to this, you had to get drafted, get to the NFL, you had to do this. And the things that I realized was that in that writing was I'm doing the things that I never thought I would do, and seeing it now, I feel better because also I don't have to worry about the different things happening to my body. I don't have to worry about the different things happening in my mind, and I feel like I have a clear vision on what I'm supposed to been doing. And had I known it earlier, depending on what I would have done, you never know the decisions. But I'm one of them people where I would say I wouldn't change anything I've been through. But I would say it did help me on my path because I'm like every time I do something, and it doesn't just have to be it be anyone I interview, I kind of be like, wow, I already do this now. Like this is crazy. Like this is one start as a thought and now I do it. So especially but once as an athlete, I swear I would always say, I tell my wife all the time, like, wow, that's my way in. So seeing them, I'm like, okay, I'm in the game, man. We're good to go. Cool, and I feel good about it. I really do feel good about
That's amazing. Oh, I love that.
it.
Wow, I didn't know you were an author. How am I knowing this
Mhm.
just now? Oh my gosh. I have to go get your book. You're gonna have to talk about it, in another session and go dive deeper. But that's awesome. See, like you just never know. Like life is so much more beautiful than what you think. And when you do trust in God or the universe, etc., like
Mhm.
beautiful things happen. And look,
Right.
well, now we're here talking to each other on, a podcast that I never thought that I would even have as well. So it's crazy. Question for you though. Have you ever had to ignite your power? Really? I mean, we kind of talked about it, but like, what was one incident that you really felt like you had to ignite your power and, become this incredible person that you are?
I will say that like I say with anything, it comes out often that you have to ignite your power. I feel like one that comes to my mind, especially when I seen the question. Great questions, by the way. When I
Thank
seen
you.
it, I said, a kid had reached out to me. I had started the podcast, been doing it for 4.5 years, or what, 5 years now. And kid had reached out probably like year two or year three and was like, "Hey, I saw you had so and so pilot on. They both from the guys from my hometown. I want to be a pilot now just because I seen that." And I was like, off my podcast, off the guy, and I sat there and was like, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, man. I think that in times when I'm low, that what keeps me going is not only just him, just the countless people. It's from kids to adults that have reached out or they say, "Hey, you doing the right thing," or people that I never thought I'd talk to reach out to me and say, "Hey, man, keep going." So I would say that I always ignite my power and say, "You know what, man, I'm actually doing something that makes an impact to people so that when I leave here, it'll still be here working. It'll still be here, and especially also writing my second book, I would say that at sometimes I was like, I went through a lot of things in doing it. I lost my mom,
Oh,
writing
I'm
the book.
sorry.
So while I was closing the book, I was like, man, this is hard, and I literally lost my mom a month after my wedding. So it
Oh my
was a
God.
high and a low.
Mm-hmm.
And writing a book in the midst of this, working, doing all these different things, and it was very, very traumatizing. But I had to ignite my power because I said, yeah, I get these different things are happening, but it's life, and I have to see how I can persevere through this, so that someone that goes through this can see, oh, Jeremy got through this, I can get through this, and it's a sacrifice, and it's hurtful sometimes. I ain't gonna even hold you because it's life, but at the end of the day, you kind of learn how to work through it. So I would say that's how I say I ignite my power, especially in that moment, because that was a hard, hard time.
Yeah.
Very hard time. Still
Yeah.
is. Very hard.
Oh, I'm sorry. And
Mhm,
yeah, I lost my father too when I was like 25, I guess.
mhm.
I don't, yeah, earlier on in my life. And so that's really hard to lose, a parent. And your mom was a big part of your life. You talked about her, how she was pushing you in the right direction and just like giving you lots of wisdom and support that you needed. And my dad was the same way, like he had so much wisdom and had a lot of love. So, when you miss that and lose that piece of you physically here on earth, it's just so hard. So, yeah, I commend you for doing all of that and still pushing through and knowing that, your story is going to change a lot of people's lives, which it is, which you are doing. And I'm sure your mom is so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. But yeah.
Yeah. So, do you feel like you're living the bliss soft life, or do you see yourself living a bliss soft life? And for listeners, if you don't know what that is, right, I call it the BS life, not the bullshit. It's bliss soft life where you live in your power, you feel blissful, um, you know, and everything in life is just so soft and not hard, where you're full of anxiety, stress, overwhelm, like s- living in that state of negative thoughts and having that victim mindset, but like instead loving your life and you know f- fully being in your power. So do you feel like you ever have those incidences, or you know feel like you are living this bliss off life?
Right. I would say that no one's perfect.
Yeah.
Um, I would say I have an attitude of gratitude. I thank the Lord for each day. I would say that every time I get to go through different things, I just have to give Him thanks. But outside of that, I would say that the biggest thing that I feel like I had to understand was, like I said before when we first met, you can't live in your moments of depression. Like the negativity and different things, that's only for a moment. It's only and it's only gonna get worse if you keep holding on and keep trying to think that, no one's perfect like I started with. You're gonna go, I'm not perfect every day. It's a battle. Like, hey, we gotta fight this battle, man. And I think that I am living the bliss soft life because I have a gauge on it now to be like, you know what, it's cool that I felt that way. Okay, we gotta go do this anyway though. You know,
Yeah.
and I love that self talk. You gotta have positive self talk to yourself, and it affects the people around you. And the
Yeah.
day that you see the things that you do affect the people around you is the day that you'll make that change. And I feel like I have had to, especially being a husband. You have to be like, you know what? hey, I'm being a little too harsh being a son, so because I'm feeling some type of way about myself. Let me go ahead and fix this about myself so I can move on. So I think
Yeah.
that I do live in the Bliss Soft Life. And I love that because I feel like everybody should try to strive to be peaceful, man.
Yeah.
Life's too short. Life
Yeah.
too short to not be peaceful. So,
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. It's so true because, living the bliss of life is just living truly peaceful life of like joy and happiness, like doing things that you truly believe you should be doing in this lifetime, like you doing the podcast and changing people's lives, writing books, right? Like when I'm talking about look at your smile, see, that's like when you're truly living the bliss of life. And I know a lot of people who don't, right? Like you still have your 9 to 5 job, right? Or you still an engineer,
yeah.
still doing that. I mean, you still love that, but it's like not the passionate part of you, right? Like, same
Not
to me,
all the way.
right?
A piece of it is, but not all
Yeah.
the way. But no, you see people though. You see people at work, and not
Yeah.
a judgy person, but
Yeah.
you see things and people always ask, "Hey man, how are you okay, man? How do you do all these things?" I say,
Yeah.
"Well, I make time for the things I love to do.
Yeah.
One day this can go all the way, but the things that I do will never go away because I love to do it.
Yeah.
And they make Jeremy is, and I feel like a lot of people are walking around Earth being robots, and they're like, "Oh, I got to do this, I got to do this, and this." That's not the way you should operate in life. I don't think
Yeah.
that's the way you should do.
Exactly, because AI is a true thing. I mean, there will be real robots, so let the robots do robot things and
Right.
you get to live the, things
Hmm.
that you should want to do. And a lot of us, grow up doing things that we don't love. Like people become doctors or attorneys or like, really prestigious jobs just because the money, right? But they don't love it.
Right.
And I just feel sad, like, maybe you could do your 9 to 5, but what other things ignite you? What other things really make you happy in life? And you should just do those things. But a lot of people don't, right? They're just like kind of stuck in this pattern of like, okay, I just gotta go to work, make money, come home, eat dinner, and that's it. And then, like, they just live like a robot, what you said. So, you
A lot of
know,
people are fearful too. They're like fearful of what's next,
yeah.
like what's going to happen if they stop something, or
Mm.
they get in that mentality of this is how my life is always going to be, and this is how my parents' life were, or this is how I seen so and so life is. So I'm gonna be okay. And it's like you're not okay. It is okay to not be okay, but I'm the person that if you get a hold to my podcast and you get my email or email me, I will help you, man. Like we can figure this thing out. I tell all my friends and family that even some people that I don't know, say I'm here, to help
Yeah.
you because though life is like I say, I'm gonna say it all the time. Life's too short to be doing something that you do not like to do, and you're
Yes.
scared to see what's gonna happen if you don't do it. So,
Oh man, I love that. Yes, you are the BSer. You are a BSer for life. For sure.
mm.
Love that. How has your family and friends inspired you in your life?
I would say they inspired me a lot. Like I said, spoke about my mom. I would say growing up, seeing her, I grew up in a single parent home. So seeing my mom go out and do different things I would go to school, not see her until later on that night. So seeing her be able to do those things and make those sacrifices for me and my other two siblings was amazing. But also seeing her run a business. She was a chef. So seeing her do catering, different things of that nature outside of working in the mental health field, I would say that that was amazing, but also seeing my family members do amazing things. Like they always supported one another, always got together and had a good time. And I would say once I got into my adult life, I was able to transition and find friends like that, and even finding my wife. I would say that I always try to find people that are like minded, but a little different because I don't want everybody around me being yes people or hey, you got this or you're gonna be good all the time. I need people to have those tough conversations. And I feel like I have a lot of family members that I look up to. But I also would say I look up to my wife, man. She's a star player. She's a very MVP woman. Like at the end of the day, she go do her 9 to 5 work. She works as a teacher, mathematics teacher, and
Mhm.
does a great job in her field. But just the passion that she brings to those kids, she brings the same passion home. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know how you do this. But I kind of I make sure I give her that grace because at the end of the day, it is a struggle to make that impact to the next generation. Now I commend her for doing that. And just the people around me, even the team to be able to make the it factor go, they're amazing people. It wouldn't be no it factor if it wasn't for my videographer, my camera people, man, my friends, my business admin, which is her best friend, and there's a lot of other people that I would say that, and then the people that just say, I'm gonna go on this crazy guy's podcast because he know what he talking about. I think those people, because at the end of the day, it wouldn't be no it factor podcast, or I may not be talking to you today.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Oh. No, that's so amazing. You have a lot of love and support around you. You have amazing people, and do you feel like you're blessed to have that? Because I know a lot of people don't. So, without them, your life might be different.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, I have a lot of people to thank for life, being around, especially being from a single parent home, having different male figures around, like coaches, my cousins, uncles, my sister's husband, people like that around have really inspired me. Because back when I'll never forget, small story, when I was back in high school, needed cleats, couldn't afford them. I remember my cousin coming down every season. When he found out I didn't, he was like, "Man, I'm gonna come down. I'm gonna watch some games, and I'm gonna buy you some cleats, man." And those are things that he's like, "Just do it when you get old enough to do it, man. No matter what it is, just that's the way you give back to me." So seeing that, and even ultimately helping me get a job at NASA, those different things. It went from football cleats to helping me get a job at NASA my freshman year, and I wrote about it in my book because it really impacted me. We go out all the time. I got a habit of we smoke cigars every now and then and talk about life. And in doing that, man, I would say I can't never thank him enough. And he always say, "Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, man. You paying me, And I would say I'm thankful for people like that have had them in my life because no telling where I would have been. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's awesome. I love that. And then now you do that too, and you give back, and you're just doing what you're doing, and you're living your life purpose and what you're meant to do, you know?
yeah.
So how do you develop a strong mindset and a positive outlook in life? Because yeah, you can say all these things like, yeah, I have great people around me, and some people are like, well, I don't have that, right? Like, how do I have that positive outlook? How do I have that support? But like, it really comes within, obviously, but how did you develop that for yourself?
Everything starts with you. I feel like, yes, I had family around me, different people around me, but I have had times where I've been separated from them. I had to go do a whole year in Boston, Massachusetts alone, and I felt alone, and I think that the biggest thing is to tap into the people that you know that love you. I don't think that anyone on this earth don't have at least one person. And even if you don't, you have yourself. I feel like once you learn to love yourself and know what you want your outcome in your life to be, I think that that's when you start striving towards your purpose. I feel that a lot of times people don't take time to reflect and sit back like, hey, how my day went? Well, I had a bad day. Well, why you had a bad day? And go through those different things. And I feel like with me doing that has made me a better person. But it has been times where I have felt alone, even with so it could be a room full of people, and I have felt alone. And that's the human side of you. Those are things, but it's a quick second. It's a quick
Yeah.
second, And it wasn't always like that. It wasn't always like that. I wouldn't say as a teenager I felt that way, but as an adult I have felt some low moments. Like, man, I'm going through this alone, you know. And it's times where it's like, what? It's something to happen. And you'd be like, wait a minute, like, wait, what? I thought I was alone this whole time, and this they want me to come do. Okay, cool, man. Well, I have to be there for the moment. I can't just sit in it. So I would say.
Yeah. That's so true. I love how you said that. Self-love. Oh my God, this is what I teach all the time. It really does come to self-love. Like, yes, even though you don't really, if say you don't have one person, you still have yourself, right? And you do live in this lifetime for yourself. So self-love is so, so beautiful. And a lot of guys don't talk about self-love. Like, what are some self-love rituals that you do for yourself? Like, I would love to know. Or even
It's
self-care things, right? Like,
So like self care, self love things that I do is very simple. I ain't the person that got to go out and do all these things, but something as simple as putting on my favorite music,
ooh,
or putting on my mom's favorite music, or like sitting there watching old football highlights, watching anything football. My wife could tell you, watching anything football or going back and watching like when I started the podcast and seeing a mattress in the back and saying, wow, okay, I got a whole room for it now. Okay, good, cool, and just sitting down, I can go outside and look at trees, look at Mother Nature, and that will make me happy. And I think that a lot of times you have to find out what makes you happy. I feel like a lot of people, that's another thing. You sit around, you 29, 30, 40 years old, you still don't know what makes you happy. You, not anyone else, you. And I think that you have to recognize the simple things in life. They mean more to me than anything. It's cool to have all this material stuff, but when you leave this earth, you can't take it with you. So I feel like that what actually empowers me to have an attitude of gratitude because I'm thankful for my family, the different people I'm able to be around, even with the podcast. Like I put out episodes, I put out things every week, and then I may put out a trying to recruit someone famous. And I had somebody ask me like, "You really think that's gonna happen? You really think?" I said, "Well, will it happen if I never do it? If
Yeah.
I never do it, will it happen? Well, at least I can put it out and see if it happens. And once it happens, I'm gonna tell you it happened, not to throw strife or say that I'm better than you, but to show you, hey, now is it something you want to do? Go do it. And I think that a lot of times that's all I'm trying to do, man, is to help people. And that's something I was gonna say in the last question was I get more excitement at my big age of only 29 from helping
Yeah.
people than
That's so
I get
beautiful.
more excitement from helping people, interviewing people than anything. I'm not getting nothing from it. It's cool, like, oh, you did this, or my family's a friend tell you, like, you remember you interviewed so and so, and it's like, yeah, you're just a regular person. It's cool. And they're like, why you don't? And I'm like, yeah, the first couple times you're happy, like you. And don't get me wrong, I'm still happy that I did it, but you realize like that's not what I'm doing it for, and that
Yeah.
what keep me doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that because it's true. Like, again, you touched about, the specific topic of like learning how to really be happy. A lot of people do not. That's another thing that I keep talking about too, because really, we think our happiness is based on other people or like the perception of what you think they would think of you, right? So you like do things a certain way because you want to be perceived a certain way, but that doesn't really truly make you happy. Like, if you're going to wear a certain type of outfit, you think like, oh, other people you're going to attract, certain things or whatever, but it's like, what, you want to just wear sweatpants or whatever and just feel you, but people always do things to please others and not to really bring happiness and joy into themselves. So, like you talking about going to nature. Yes. Like pure example though. So like I used to always be on my phone all the time and I know a lot of us do this, right? And so you never really notice like the beauty of nature. So one day I was like, I think someone was talking about like just detoxing from your phone while you walk. And I was like, okay, let me try to do it for like a week and see. Oh my gosh, I go for this walk all the time and I used to be like on my podcast, like listening to podcasts and stuff. I left my phone out and I didn't bring it and I was like, "Oh my God, there's flowers here?" Like, I love flowers. Flowers are so freaking beautiful. Like, how did I not notice this, And I started feeling silly. Like, wow, you start noticing little beauties in life. And now like when I go out, I'm more intentional and then like I know flowers bring me true joy. And like when I look at the clouds in the sky, I'm like, oh my God, it's so pretty. Like I'm looking at these beautiful clouds. Like what? Like we take these things for granted? It's so wild. And so I'm sure you do too. Like you go into nature and you truly just bask in the beauty of nature?
Cutting the grass. My wife would say, like, what is he out there doing? I just literally take my time. I could take my time. I could be out. If it wasn't for the pollen, if pollen didn't exist, I'd be outside. I'd be outside all the time. I'd be outside all the time.
I love it. You literally are the true essence of like living the bliss soft life. You love yourself. You're changing the world. You're living out your life purpose. You're just like a joy and a light to this world. And this is all like what we should be doing, and I want people to know that we can all be living this life, right? You're just an example. I'm an example of it, that we
Mhm.
can do anything if we put our mind to it. And so thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to share your story to change people's lives. Thank you for being that light and love that we need in this world.
Great,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so
I'm
much.
glad I could share it. Glad I could share.
Yes. And before we end, please let people know where they can find you or, even like what is your book called and where can people buy that book too as well?
Okay, so I started the book. It's called The Art of Networking and the It Factor Memoir. It is on Barnes and Nobles, Target. You can Google the name and you can find it kind of anywhere. It's on Amazon. I know a lot of people love Amazon. And I would say at the It Factor podcast, you can find me on YouTube. I air episodes every Sunday. Put out a snippet every Friday, Saturdays, and also just very active on my pages on Instagram, Facebook. What is it? I also have a radio part of my podcast on Apple and Spotify. So have it kind of everywhere. The biggest thing is just at the It Factor podcast and just look for it. But if you ever need me, just reach out.
Yay! And yes, it's true. I reached out to you through Instagram DM and you responded right back. So it works, guys. Keep
Right,
response.
right. Yeah.
You're
And I was so
amazing.
happy when you reached out. I was just like, me of all people. That's how I be all the time. Like, me of all people. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just want to know. I like that my algorithm stuff is working. That's why I like it's working. It's getting up to other people. So
Yes, so thank you again for being on. And I can't just like wait for your second book and to learn and keep like, seeing what you're doing because you keep doing amazing things.
thank you. And I look forward to collaborating with you again. Anytime you want to talk again, this make me feel good. So definitely let's
Yeah.
do it.
Thank you. Bye.